Clara sat at the corner table of her favorite coffee shop in Portland, the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee surrounding her like a comforting embrace. She stirred her latte absent-mindedly, watching the steam rise and dissipate into the air. Outside, the vibrant city bustled with life, people rushing by, laughter echoing from nearby food carts, and the distant sound of street musicians filling the atmosphere with warmth. Yet here she was, feeling increasingly invisible. At 46, Clara had settled into a routine that felt more like a cage than a comfort. Her husband, Mark, had become absorbed in his work, often returning home late and distracted. Conversations dwindled to mundane exchanges about grocery lists and bills. The spark that once ignited their relationship seemed extinguished, leaving behind a lingering sense of neglect that Clara couldn't shake off. As she sipped her drink, she caught sight of Jake, her son's best friend, entering the cafe with an infectious smile. He was only 23 but carried an energy that seemed to light up the room. Clara had known him since he was a boy. He had always been polite and respectful around her. But today, as their eyes met across the room, something shifted in her chest. "Hey, Mrs. Thompson," Jake called out as he approached her table. "Hello, Jake," she replied softly, trying to mask her surprise at how much his presence stirred something within her. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, already pulling out a chair before she could respond. "Not at all," she said, forcing a smile while feeling an unexpected flutter in her stomach. They chatted about trivial things, his college classes and summer plans, but Clara found herself captivated by his enthusiasm. He spoke with passion about his dreams and ambitions. It reminded her of a time when she had those same dreams. As they talked over steaming cups of coffee and pastries that melted in their mouths, Clara felt alive for the first time in years. "So what about you? What's new?" Jake asked after finishing his drink. She hesitated for a moment before answering. "Oh, just keeping busy with home and family." Her voice trailed off as she thought about how little there was to share. Jake leaned forward slightly. "I've always thought you were really interesting." "I mean it." His words caught her off guard. They lingered in the air between them like an electric current. Clara laughed lightly but felt warmth spread across her cheeks. "Interesting? I'm just a mom." "No," he insisted earnestly. "You're so much more than that." In that moment, something shifted within Clara. A flicker of recognition for who she once was before marriage and motherhood consumed her identity. For years now, she'd felt like an afterthought in her own life. Hearing Jake's genuine admiration awakened feelings long buried beneath layers of obligation and routine. As they continued talking about everything and nothing, his favorite movies, music tastes, the connection between them deepened effortlessly. Each shared laugh brought Clara closer to remembering herself beyond being Mark's wife or Jason's mother. It felt exhilarating yet terrifying to be seen again. Eventually they finished their drinks and stood outside on the bustling street corner where food carts lined up, tempting passers-by with delicious scents wafting through the air. Clara felt lighter, as if shedding some weight from her shoulders simply by being here with him. "I should get going," Jake said reluctantly, but then added quickly, "But would you want to meet up again sometime? I mean, just to talk?" A thrill shot through Clara at his suggestion. She hesitated for just a moment before nodding enthusiastically, a decision made almost instinctively rather than rationally weighing consequences or morality. "Sure. That sounds nice," she replied without thinking too deeply about it. As they exchanged goodbyes, a casual wave rather than anything more, Clara couldn't shake off how invigorated she felt after their encounter. It was refreshing to be noticed again. It ignited something dormant inside her heart that yearned for connection beyond familial roles or societal expectations. But just as quickly as hope sparked within her soul came creeping doubt. What would this mean? Was it wrong? And what would happen if Mark found out? The questions swirled in Clara's mind as she walked home through Portland's streets filled with laughter and life. Each step toward familiarity now seemed heavier laden with uncertainty than before. When she finally reached home later that evening, the familiar sights duller than usual, she found Mark slumped on the couch watching television mindlessly while scrolling through his phone simultaneously, a sight all too common these days but still disheartening nonetheless. "Hey," he mumbled without looking up from whatever show played on screen. "Hi," Clara replied softly while heading into the kitchen where silence reigned supreme except for faint sounds coming from their living room echoing emptiness around them like an unwelcoming reminder of their disconnect. As night fell over Portland outside their window, the city lights twinkling against darkened skies, Clara couldn't help but wonder if today marked merely another fleeting moment or perhaps something transformative brewing beneath layers of secrecy waiting patiently for its chance to surface amidst shadows cast by doubt lingering overhead like storm clouds ready to break loose at any moment. The park was a refuge, a pocket of stillness amid the chaos of my life. The sun filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the ground. I had met Jake here often, each time feeling a mix of exhilaration and guilt. Today, the air felt charged with unspoken words as we settled onto a bench, the world around us fading into a soft hum. "How's your week been?" Jake asked casually, his eyes bright with curiosity. "Busy," I replied, forcing a smile. "Just the usual." He nodded, but I could see the flicker of concern in his expression. There was an understanding between us that went beyond mere words. As we sat side by side, I felt both comforted and unsettled by the intimacy that had developed in such a short time. The conversation drifted from light topics to deeper confessions. Jake spoke about his family, his father's expectations weighing heavily on his shoulders, and I shared my own struggles with feeling unseen at home. Each revelation drew us closer, yet I felt the tightening grip of guilt around my heart. Then came that moment when our laughter faded into silence, replaced by an electric tension. He turned to me, searching for something in my eyes. In that instant, everything shifted. We kissed. It was brief yet profound, an acknowledgement of our shared loneliness and desires. As we pulled apart, reality crashed back in like a wave against the shore. "What are we doing?" I whispered, half excited and half terrified. "I don't know," he admitted softly, his brow furrowing as if he too could sense the precariousness of our situation. "But it feels right." I wanted to believe him but couldn't shake off the weight of what this meant for my family. My husband remained oblivious to my internal struggle, lost in his own world of work and routine. The thought of him finding out sent shivers down my spine. Days passed with an unsettling rhythm, moments spent with Jake filled with stolen glances and hushed laughter during coffee breaks at our favorite cafe. Yet at home, silence reigned supreme as my husband continued to retreat into his own thoughts after long hours at work. One evening while preparing dinner, a ritual that had become automatic, I caught sight of myself in the kitchen window reflecting back an image I barely recognized, tired eyes and a weary smile that didn't reach my heart. "Clara?" My husband's voice broke through my reverie as he entered the kitchen. "Yes?" I replied absent-mindedly. "Are you all right? You seem distant." "Just tired," I offered weakly, not wanting to delve into deeper truths that lay beneath my surface. He nodded but didn't press further. Instead, he turned back to his phone as though it held more interest than our conversation, a familiar pattern that left me feeling even more isolated. That weekend brought unexpected complications when Jake revealed he had family issues too. His parents were separating after years of tension and arguments that echoed through their home like shadows haunting every corner. It struck me how similar our lives were despite our age difference, both trapped in situations where love felt conditional and frail. "I wish things were different," he said one afternoon as we walked along the waterfront, watching boats glide across the water while people bustled around us oblivious to our turmoil. "Me too," I murmured softly, feeling a pang of sorrow for both him and myself. The connection between us deepened further as we sought solace in each other's company amidst personal storms brewing within our families. But with each passing day came heavier burdens. The thrill was tinged with anxiety about what lay ahead should anyone discover our secret. At dinner one night, my husband's usual routine, the atmosphere shifted when he casually mentioned something unsettling. "Jake seems really fond of you lately." His tone was light but carried an undercurrent that made me freeze mid-bite. "What do you mean?" I asked too quickly. "Oh, just little things," he shrugged dismissively while focusing on his plate again. "He talks about you sometimes." My heart raced, fear mingled with panic at how much Jake had unwittingly revealed about our bond without even knowing it himself. Later that night as I lay awake staring at the ceiling above me, thoughts swirling like autumn leaves caught in a gust, I wondered how close we were to crossing lines that couldn't be uncrossed. The kiss lingered on my lips like a secret waiting to be exposed under harsh lights. Every moment spent together felt like walking along a tightrope stretched over uncertainty. I needed clarity but found myself trapped within this web spun from longing and guilt, a precarious balance between two worlds colliding violently against each other without warning or mercy for those caught within their grasp. The next time Jake texted asking if we could meet again soon, I hesitated before typing back an agreement tinged with unease over what it might lead us into next. The festival buzzed with life, a kaleidoscope of colors and sounds that seemed to drown out my inner turmoil. I stood beside Jake, feeling the warmth radiate from his presence, a stark contrast to the cold void my marriage had become. The laughter around us felt distant, as if we were encased in our bubble of secrecy and shared glances. "Let's grab some food," he suggested, taking my hand as he led me toward a row of food carts. The aroma of grilled meats and sweet pastries wafted through the air, momentarily distracting me from the gnawing anxiety that had settled in my stomach. I nodded, forcing a smile. "Sure." As we waited in line, I could feel the weight of our hidden connection pressing down on me. Every stolen look, every brush of his fingers against mine ignited a spark within that I hadn't felt in years. The thrill was intoxicating but laced with dread. What if someone saw us together? What if my son found out? The thought sent chills down my spine. After we got our food, we wandered toward a quieter area near the waterfront. The sound of laughter faded into the background as we sat on a bench overlooking the river. I took a deep breath, trying to quell the storm brewing inside me. "Do you ever think about what this all means?" Jake asked suddenly, his eyes searching mine with an intensity that made my heart race. "What do you mean?" I replied cautiously. "This us," he gestured between us. "It feels different." I swallowed hard, his words hung in the air like a fragile thread connecting two worlds threatening to snap at any moment. "It is different," I admitted quietly. Our conversation flowed easily despite the tension simmering beneath it. We talked about everything and nothing, our favorite books, memories from childhood, dreams for the future, until the moment came when our lips met under the soft glow of string lights above us. It was brief but electrifying, igniting something deep within me that had long been dormant. Before I could fully process what had just happened, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. Startled, I pulled it out and saw my husband's name flashing across the screen. My heart dropped. He rarely called during work hours unless something was wrong. "I should answer this," I said reluctantly. Jake nodded but didn't move away from me as I swiped to accept the call. "Hey," I said tentatively. "Clara," Mark's voice was steady but edged with an undercurrent of concern. "I just wanted to check in on you." "Everything's fine," I replied too quickly, glancing at Jake who was trying to appear casual but failed miserably. "I don't know why," Mark continued slowly, "but something feels off lately between us." My breath caught in my throat as guilt washed over me like a tidal wave. "What do you mean?" "I don't know, it's just a feeling." There was silence on his end before he added softly, "I hope you're not hiding anything from me." My stomach twisted painfully at his words. They hung over me like a dark cloud threatening rain at any moment. "Of course not," I assured him quickly, forcing cheerfulness into my voice that felt hollow even to me. "Good," he said finally after another pause. "Just wanted to make sure everything is okay." "Everything is fine." As soon as I ended the call, tension crackled between Jake and me like static electricity before a storm. "What did he want?" Jake asked carefully. "He just had a feeling something was off." My voice trembled slightly as dread pooled in my chest again. How could I explain this without revealing too much? Jake frowned slightly but kept his voice low and steady. "What do we do now?" "I don't know." We sat there for what felt like eternity, the festival lights twinkling above us while laughter echoed around us, but all I could hear was my own heartbeat thundering in my ears and Mark's voice replaying in my mind, "I hope you're not hiding anything from me." The weight of our secret pressed heavily upon me. Each moment spent with Jake felt both exhilarating and suffocating all at once, a double-edged sword that cut deeper than either of us realized. Eventually breaking the silence, Jake reached for my hand again, a simple gesture filled with unspoken promises and fears alike, but before either of us could speak further or delve deeper into what lay ahead for us both, we were interrupted by an unexpected sight. Across the park stood several teenagers laughing and chatting animatedly. Among them was my son with Jake's other friends gathered around him, but what caught me off guard wasn't just their presence. It was how they were looking at Jake with knowing smiles that sent chills racing down my spine. "Clara?" Jake's voice broke through my thoughts as he followed my gaze and paled slightly when he recognized who they were too. I pulled away instinctively as panic surged through me like ice water coursing through veins. How much did they know? "I need to go," I whispered urgently while standing up abruptly. Fear clawed its way up inside me like jagged glass shards threatening to break free at any moment. "What?" "No. Wait." Jake pleaded softly, but desperation laced his words, his eyes wide with concern, but all I could think about was getting away before anyone connected any dots, or worse, before Mark found out somehow through them what had been brewing behind closed doors all along. Without looking back at him or giving myself time to second-guess anything else, I turned on heel and walked away briskly towards where our car was parked, leaving behind shadows filled with unspoken truths lingering just out of reach amidst flickering lights illuminating an uncertain future ahead for both of us caught within this tangled web woven from desire and despair alike, waiting patiently for consequences, soon enough looming large overhead ready to strike without warning or mercy once more. I hurried to the car, heart racing, thoughts swirling in a chaotic storm. The streetlights flickered overhead as I slid into the driver's seat, hands trembling on the steering wheel. Jake's pleading eyes haunted me. What had I done? The thrill of our connection felt suffocating now, a weight pressing down on my chest. The drive home was a blur, punctuated only by the steady rhythm of rain tapping against the windshield. I kept replaying the evening in my mind, the laughter, the stolen glances, and that moment of vulnerability when we spent the night together. A mix of elation and dread filled my thoughts. What if Mark found out? The very idea made my stomach churn. As I pulled into our driveway, I glanced at the dim glow from inside our house. Mark was probably watching TV or reading. He rarely noticed when I came home late anymore. The silence that enveloped our home felt heavy with unspoken words and unresolved issues. I stepped inside quietly, hoping to avoid any questions. "Clara?" Mark's voice echoed from the living room as he turned to face me. "You're back late." "Just got caught up with some errands," I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than genuine warmth. He nodded but didn't seem convinced. There was something in his gaze, an underlying tension that suggested he sensed more than he let on. I quickly made my way to the kitchen, pouring myself a glass of water to calm my nerves. Sipping slowly, I caught sight of my reflection in the window, a woman who appeared older than her years, wearied by life's demands and unfulfilled desires. I took a deep breath and turned away from the mirror. There were too many thoughts swirling around that needed to settle before morning. The next day felt like an endless stretch of time filled with anxiety. My phone buzzed incessantly with messages from Jake, each one igniting a flicker of hope mixed with fear within me. He wanted to talk, he wanted to see me again. But how could we continue this charade without risking everything? I avoided responding for most of the day until finally succumbing to temptation during lunch at a local coffee shop where we had first connected over shared stories and laughter. It was easy to get lost in those moments. Today felt different though, a sense of foreboding lingered around every corner. "Hey," Jake greeted me as soon as I stepped inside, his smile brightening up the dimly lit cafe. "Hi," I replied softly, glancing around nervously before sliding into a booth at the back where we could talk privately. "I've been thinking about last night," he began hesitantly, his eyes searching mine for reassurance. "Me too," I admitted, feeling both exhilarated and terrified by what lay ahead. "I don't want this to end," he said firmly but gently. "I know it's complicated, but there's something real here between us." His words sent a rush through me, a mix of longing and guilt battling for dominance within my heart. "Jake," I started cautiously, "we need to be careful." "I know," he interrupted softly but urgently. "But can't we just figure it out together?" The intensity in his gaze made my resolve waver for just a moment before crashing back down under the weight of reality. "What about my family? Your friendship with my son?" "I care about you," he insisted again, reaching across the table to take my hand in his, a gesture that sent shivers down my spine despite everything weighing heavily on me. With every passing second spent in his presence, it became increasingly difficult to deny what we had built together, yet fear loomed larger than desire now as doubt crept into every thought like an unwelcome guest refusing to leave. Suddenly, as if summoned by fate itself, our conversation was interrupted by an unexpected sight across the cafe, my son Ethan walking through the door with two friends in tow, laughter bubbling between them like sunlight breaking through clouds after rainstorms. I froze momentarily while panic surged through me, a visceral reaction that left no room for rational thought as instinct kicked in and urged me toward escape rather than confrontation or revelation. "Clara?" Jake whispered urgently while glancing over his shoulder towards where Ethan stood oblivious among his peers enjoying their afternoon break from classes nearby. "Let's go," I murmured quickly, pulling away from him as adrenaline coursed through me, urging movement away from potential disaster looming closer than ever before. We slipped out through another exit unnoticed just in time while laughter echoed behind us, a reminder that normalcy existed outside this tangled web we had woven together under cover of darkness. Once outside under gray skies threatening rain once more, I leaned against cool brick walls attempting to catch my breath while Jake stood close enough for warmth yet far enough not to crowd me amid rising uncertainties surrounding us both now more than ever before. "What just happened?" he asked quietly, watching me closely, searching for signs of reassurance or clarity amidst chaos swirling within myself, still unable fully grasp what lay ahead. "I don't know," came my shaky reply, filled with equal parts frustration and confusion battling fiercely against hope lingering beneath surface, still yearning for connection despite consequences lurking dangerously close behind every decision made thus far leading us here today. Standing together yet apart, simultaneously caught between worlds colliding without warning, leaving nothing certain anymore except fear unrelenting threatening all we held dear, whether known or unknown alike, waiting patiently ready strike without mercy when least expected, leaving devastation behind once more. A sudden realization hit like cold water splashing against skin. Ethan may have seen us after all. Perhaps even heard whispers carried on winds tainted by secrets hidden beneath layers built over years spent pretending everything was fine when clearly nothing remained untouched by invisible scars etched deep within hearts yearning desperately for understanding. Amidst turmoil reigning supreme over lives lived quietly behind closed doors filled only echoes, memories long since faded away, leaving Emptiness behind waiting patiently fill voids once occupied joyfully instead now replaced sorrowful reminders haunting past decisions made recklessly without thought given consequences looming large overhead ready strike without mercy once more. As if sensing danger approaching, we exchanged hurried glances filled with urgency knowing all too well how fragile this moment truly was teetering precariously on edge uncertainty threatening plunge into abyss below where nothing remained untouched darkness beckoning closer each passing second urging action taken swiftly before it became too late. We need to talk later tonight? Jake suggested tentatively breaking silence hanging thick between us now almost suffocating under pressure building steadily around edges threatening consume entire space entirely leaving nothing behind except shadows memories fleeting lost forevermore. Okay, came my barely audible response filled dread uncertainty swirling endlessly within heart racing faster than thoughts could form coherent sentences leaving little room clarity needed navigate treacherous waters ahead knowing full well consequences awaited should paths diverge further apart leading down roads never intended travel alone seeking solace found only fleeting moments shared between two souls desperate find belonging somewhere amidst chaos reigning supreme over lives lived. Quietly behind closed doors filled only echoes memories long since faded away leaving emptiness behind waiting patiently fill voids once occupied joyfully instead now replaced sorrowful reminders haunting past decisions made recklessly without thought given, consequences looming large overhead ready strike without mercy once more. The weight of my thoughts pressed down on me as I sat at the kitchen table, the sun casting long shadows through the window. Jake's message lingered in my mind, a reminder of the complexities we had woven between us. He had shared pieces of his life, fragments that revealed a young man grappling with family expectations and personal aspirations. Yet, in those confessions, I saw reflections of my own unfulfilled desires. I glanced at my phone again, half expecting another text from him, but the screen remained dark and silent. The anticipation was a double-edged sword, each moment stretched into an eternity filled with both excitement and dread. The thrill of our connection battled against the guilt gnawing at my insides. My husband's voice broke through my reverie as he entered the kitchen, humming a tune that felt foreign to me now. He moved about with an ease I once found comforting but now seemed like a reminder of everything I was distancing myself from. "What's for dinner?" he asked casually, his eyes scanning the fridge. "Just some pasta," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Sounds good," he said, pulling out ingredients without noticing the tension in my voice. I watched him for a moment, his back turned to me as he hummed an old song, one we used to dance to during happier times. The warmth of nostalgia washed over me but quickly faded into cold reality. The doorbell rang unexpectedly, jolting me from my thoughts. My heart raced as I wondered if it could be Jake or perhaps even our son returning home early from his outing with friends. My husband opened the door and greeted our son with enthusiasm. "Hey! You're back early." His father clapped him on the shoulder as he stepped inside. "I figured you'd want to see me before dinner," our son replied with a grin that reminded me so much of his father's youthful smile. As they chatted about mundane topics, sports scores and upcoming plans, I felt increasingly like an outsider in my own home. My mind drifted back to Jake's words about feeling invisible in his own family. It resonated more than I wanted to admit. "Mom." My son's voice pulled me back to reality. "Did you hear what I said?" "Sorry, honey," I said quickly, shaking off my reverie. "What was that?" "I was just saying Jake really admires you," he said casually, as if it were a simple fact rather than something that could unravel everything. My heart skipped a beat at those words, a mix of pride and panic surged through me. "He does?" "Yeah. He mentioned it again today while we were hanging out." There was an innocence in his tone that made it all feel more complicated than ever. Before I could respond, my husband interjected with enthusiasm. "That kid has always been respectful, he knows how great you are." He smiled at me warmly, completely unaware of how those words twisted in my gut like a knife. As dinner preparations continued around me, I busied myself chopping vegetables while trying to process what our son had just revealed. Did Jake truly admire me? Or was this admiration merely an echo of something deeper? The lines between admiration and attraction blurred dangerously close to crossing into territory I had never intended to explore. The evening unfolded with laughter and stories shared over steaming plates of pasta, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within me. Each smile exchanged between family members felt like another thread tightening around my heart. Every laugh echoed reminders of what was at stake should anyone discover the truth. After dinner, while washing dishes alongside my husband, he casually mentioned plans for a family outing next weekend, something we hadn't done in ages. "Let's make it special," he suggested excitedly. "Sure," came my automatic response as anxiety twisted within me like vines choking their host. A day spent together would only amplify the risk if Jake were still part of this equation next week. Later that night, after our son retreated to his room and silence enveloped the house once more, I found myself sitting alone in the living room with only the flickering light from the television for company. Thoughts spiraled endlessly around what Jake might think if he knew how intertwined our lives had become through mere happenstance, the hidden glances exchanged during moments when no one else was watching. I picked up my phone again out of habit rather than hope. No new messages awaited me there either, a stark reminder that anticipation often leads nowhere but disappointment when left unchecked by reality's constraints. Suddenly compelled by curiosity mixed with dread, I opened Jake's last message again, the one where he poured out fragments about his struggles growing up alongside our son, and noticed something else beneath those words. Hints about their friendship's depth intertwined with feelings left unspoken yet heavy enough to shift tides if revealed too soon or too carelessly. A sudden determination surged within me. Perhaps it was time to confront these feelings head-on rather than allow them to fester further into chaos threatening everything familiar around us all, my family included. But just as clarity began forming amidst confusion surrounding this affair's morality versus desire for connection alive within each moment shared between us, two souls desperate not merely for attention but understanding beyond surface-level interactions, shaped by societal norms dictating right from wrong without consideration given individual circumstances, leading down paths rarely traveled openly without fear looming overhead, ready strike without mercy once more. Then came another notification, a new message from Jake lighting up the screen before me. "Can we talk tomorrow? There's something important I need to share." The world narrowed down around those words like a spotlight illuminating truths waiting patiently beneath layers crafted carefully over years spent navigating life's complexities, all leading toward this pivotal moment threatening unravel everything should paths diverge further apart, leaving behind nothing but shadows, memories fleeting, lost forevermore. I hesitated before typing back. Every second felt weighted by potential consequences lurking just beyond reach, ready pounce should decisions made lead astray down roads never intended, travel alone seeking solace found only fleeting, moments shared between two souls desperate find belonging somewhere. Amidst chaos reigning supreme over lives lived quietly behind closed doors filled only echoes, memories long since faded away leaving emptiness behind waiting patiently fill voids once occupied. Joyfully instead now replaced sorrowful reminders haunting past decisions made recklessly without thought given consequences looming large overhead, ready strike without mercy once more. The clinking of silverware against porcelain filled the air as we gathered around the dinner table, a familiar yet suffocating atmosphere enveloping us. My husband, David, sat at the head, his jovial demeanor a stark contrast to the turmoil roiling within me. I forced a smile as our son, Mark, animatedly recounted stories from his day, his laughter echoing against the walls of our home. Yet, my mind drifted to Jake and the weight of our secret. "Mom," Mark said suddenly, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Did you know Jake has a crush on someone? He can't stop talking about her." My heart raced. The words hung in the air like an unsaid truth waiting to be unveiled. I glanced at David, whose fork paused mid-air as he looked up at our son with interest. Really? Who is she? He asked casually, but I could sense an underlying tension in his voice. Mark shrugged playfully. Some older woman. He thinks she's amazing. The way he said it felt like a dagger aimed straight at my heart. I forced myself to laugh lightly, trying to mask the panic rising within me. Older woman? Sounds intriguing, I replied, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside. Yeah. He says she understands him better than anyone else, Mark continued, oblivious to the shifting dynamics at the table. My pulse quickened as I tried to decipher if there was more behind his words than mere admiration. David leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms with a thoughtful expression. Must be someone special then. The implication hung heavily between us. Could he suspect? I pushed my plate away slightly, appetite lost amid swirling thoughts of what this could mean for me and for Jake. My mind raced back to moments shared with him, laughter over coffee cups, whispered secrets under starlit skies, each memory now tinged with dread. Mom? Mark's voice broke through my reverie. Are you okay? I blinked rapidly as if waking from a dream gone wrong. Of course, I managed to reply, forcing another smile that felt more like a grimace. David turned back toward Mark and resumed their conversation about sports while I sat in silence, grappling with my feelings, a mix of guilt and longing that twisted like vines around my heart. Each word exchanged at that table felt like a reminder of everything I had jeopardized. As dinner progressed and plates emptied, I felt trapped in an invisible cage built from choices made in moments of weakness. The laughter around me faded into background noise while my thoughts spiraled deeper into uncertainty about what lay ahead. After dinner concluded and we moved to the living room for dessert, homemade pie that David had baked, I excused myself under the pretense of needing fresh air. The cool evening breeze greeted me as I stepped outside onto our porch, where shadows danced beneath the soft glow of porch lights. I inhaled deeply, trying to clear my mind but only finding it filled with echoes of laughter mingling with whispers of regret. How had it come to this? The thrill of being desired by someone so much younger had been intoxicating, now it felt like poison coursing through my veins. Moments later, footsteps approached behind me. Mark had followed me outside. You sure you're okay? He asked again, genuine concern etched on his face. I'm fine, I replied too quickly before adding softly, just needed some air. He studied me for a moment before nodding slowly but didn't press further. Instead he leaned against the railing beside me silently watching the streetlights flicker on as dusk settled around us. Jake really admires you, he finally said quietly after several moments passed between us, a simple statement that struck like thunderclap in my chest. Does he? My voice was barely above a whisper, each syllable weighed down by implications far heavier than any light-hearted compliment could convey. Yeah, Mark continued hesitantly as if gauging how far to tread into this territory with me. He talks about how you're always so supportive and understanding. A wave of warmth mixed with shame washed over me at those words. They were true yet misleading. What did Jake truly see when he looked at me? A woman lost seeking solace or merely an escape from reality? I think you should talk to him, Mark suggested casually yet earnestly while gazing out into the distance where shadows blurred into nightfall, a suggestion that sent chills racing down my spine. What do you mean? I just think he really looks up to you. His tone shifted slightly as if searching for something deeper beneath surface-level admiration, a connection perhaps unacknowledged but palpable nonetheless. A knot tightened in my stomach at how easily he spoke about Jake's feelings without any notion of what was truly happening between us, a dangerous game played behind closed doors where innocence met betrayal head-on without warning or mercy. I appreciate that, I replied carefully choosing each word while feeling exposed under scrutiny not meant for me yet still somehow mine alone to bear. The weight unbearable yet inevitable all at once, just like every choice made leading here tonight, where truth lingered just beyond reach, waiting patiently for its moment reveal itself unbidden amidst chaos surrounding lives intertwined more than ever imagined possible before. As we stood there quietly taking in night's embrace wrapping around us both like an old familiar blanket, tinged bittersweet memories long forgotten but never truly erased, I thought fleetingly how easily everything could change should paths diverge further apart, leaving behind nothing but shadows, memories fleeting, lost forevermore. The door creaked open behind us, breaking our reverie. David stepped out holding 2 slices of pie on mismatched plates, the mundane gesture contrasting sharply against emotional upheaval simmering beneath surface ready erupt should tensions rise too high, without warning leaving nothing but ashes behind once flames extinguished. "Come on. You don't want your dessert getting cold." His cheerful voice cut through tension hanging thick between us, pulling both Mark and myself back into present moment where reality awaited patiently just beyond comfort zone, beckoning forth truths long hidden beneath layers carefully crafted over years spent navigating life's complexities, all leading toward this pivotal moment threatening unravel everything should paths diverge further apart, leaving behind nothing but shadows, memories fleeting, lost forevermore. The sun dipped lower in the sky as I wandered along the Portland waterfront, the gentle sounds of laughter and conversation swirling around me like a comforting blanket. Yet, beneath this warm facade, a chill settled deep within my chest. Each step echoed my turmoil, a rhythmic reminder of the choices I had made, the choices that had led me to this moment of reckoning. I paused by a food cart selling fresh-baked pretzels, the aroma wafting through the air, but I found no comfort in it. My thoughts drifted back to Jake and the whirlwind of emotions he had stirred within me. The thrill of our connection felt intoxicating at times, yet guilt gnawed at my insides like a persistent ache. What was I doing? A married woman entangled with her son's best friend, a scenario that could shatter lives if exposed. As I continued my walk, memories of our stolen moments flashed before me, the laughter shared over coffee, the warmth of his gaze that made me feel seen for the first time in years. But then there were shadows lurking behind those memories, Jake's past with my son and his intentions that remained obscured. Did he truly care for me, or was I merely a fleeting distraction? A familiar voice broke through my reverie, pulling me back to reality. "Clara? Is that you?" Turning, I saw Lisa, an old friend from college days. Her smile was genuine as she approached, but I felt an odd mix of relief and apprehension wash over me. "Lisa. It's been ages," I replied, forcing a smile despite my inner turmoil. We embraced briefly before stepping back to assess each other. Lisa looked well, her hair still vibrant with hints of red and her eyes sparkling with life. "You look great. How've you been?" "Busy," I replied flatly, unsure how much to divulge about the chaos swirling in my life. "Busy can be good," she said thoughtfully. "But it can also mean avoiding things." Her words struck a chord within me. "You could say that." We began walking side by side along the waterfront path lined with trees swaying gently in the evening breeze. As we chatted about mundane topics, work, family, I found myself drawn into her energy. Lisa had always possessed an uncanny ability to see through facades, perhaps she would sense mine too. "Clara," she said suddenly, her tone shifting slightly as we stopped near a bench overlooking the water. "What's really going on? You seem off." I hesitated, vulnerability felt dangerous yet freeing at this moment. My heart raced as thoughts tumbled through my mind, my marriage's stagnation, my secret affair with Jake, and how all these threads intertwined into one tangled mess. "I'm just navigating some changes," I finally managed to say. Lisa studied me for a moment before nodding slowly. "Changes can be hard." She paused before continuing softly, "You know you can talk to me about anything." The sincerity in her voice tugged at something deep inside, a longing for connection that transcended mere friendship. But revealing too much felt like opening Pandora's box, once unleashed, there would be no containing it. Instead of confessing my truth outright, I steered our conversation toward lighter topics, her children and their antics, but even as we laughed together, shadows loomed at the edges of my mind. Eventually, our conversation turned toward relationships, a subject both familiar and fraught with tension for me now. "How's your marriage?" Lisa asked casually. "Stagnant," I admitted before quickly adding, "but we're working through it." The words tasted bitter on my tongue. She nodded knowingly but didn't press further. Instead, she shared anecdotes about her own marriage struggles over time, the ebb and flow that came with years spent together. As we walked on, something shifted within me. Our discussion made clear how far apart Mark and I had drifted over time, how easily complacency could settle in like dust on forgotten shelves. Jake had awakened parts of myself long buried beneath layers accumulated from years spent catering to family needs rather than pursuing personal fulfillment. In that moment of reflection amidst laughter and camaraderie with Lisa came another thought. Was Jake merely a bridge back to myself or something more complicated? Suddenly feeling overwhelmed by this duality, a longing for independence alongside guilt, I excused myself under pretense of needing fresh air away from bustling crowds nearby while making sense out of everything swirling around inside my mind. I stepped away from Lisa momentarily but remained close enough to hear snippets of laughter echoing from families enjoying their evenings together along the waterfront path filled with memories both beautiful yet hauntingly bittersweet all at once. As dusk settled deeper into Portland's streets painted gold by fading sunlight casting long shadows behind us, a familiar figure caught my eye across the way. Jake stood leaning against a lamppost watching people pass by without noticing him, lost among them like an island surrounded by waves crashing against its shores. My heart raced unexpectedly at seeing him there alone amidst joyful chaos surrounding us both. It was almost magnetic, pulling me closer despite knowing consequences ahead could lead down treacherous paths paved only by desire unfulfilled, leading nowhere good ultimately. I took several steps forward almost instinctively before stopping short, realizing vulnerability lay ahead should paths converge unexpectedly between us once more, leaving no room left for retreating back into comfort zones previously occupied without hesitation. Just then, a sharp sound pierced through evening air, breaking spellbinding moment between us. David's voice rang out loudly calling for Jake, who turned abruptly, catching sight of his best friend running toward him waving enthusiastically, unaware any tension lingered just beneath surface threatening everything they held dear. My breath caught as uncertainty washed over me. What if David knew more than he let on? What if he sensed something shifting beneath calm exterior, masking true nature hidden carefully away behind walls built strong enough yet fragile enough, capable crumbling down when faced head-on? I watched their reunion unfold silently. Laughter mingled with carefree banter filled gaps where doubt threatened, creeping closer, inching ever nearer, wrapping around heart-constricting breath, making clarity impossible amidst confusion reigning supreme, now threatening unravel everything should truth surface unbidden. Without warning, leaving nothing behind except echoes fading fast into night. As they walked away together toward bustling crowd filled with life, I stood rooted still, unable move forward or backward, lost somewhere between two worlds colliding within one another, spiraling out control, threatening consume everything, leaving nothing untouched and scathed when darkness fell around us, all enveloping, tightly grasping hold. Tight, refusing let go until light returned, illuminating paths ahead once more. The laughter faded as I stood in the shadows, the vibrant sounds of Portland's waterfront swirling around me. Jake and my son, Lucas, moved through the crowd, their camaraderie a stark reminder of what I had ventured into, a world filled with youthful exuberance that felt both intoxicating and suffocating. I could hear snippets of their conversation, the playful teasing laced with an undercurrent of something deeper. "Did you tell her yet?" Lucas asked, his voice light but edged with curiosity. "No," Jake replied, a hint of nervousness creeping in. "But I'm going to. She deserves to know." My heart raced at those words. The weight of my secret pressed down like a heavy fog, enveloping me in its damp chill. The thought of Jake confessing sent a shiver through me. It was a truth I hadn't prepared for. How could he be so reckless? Did he not understand the precariousness of our situation? I turned away from their sight, retreating to a quieter corner where the noise dulled to a distant hum. My mind raced through the possibilities. The fallout from such a revelation could shatter everything I had tried to maintain in my life. My marriage was already strained. This would be the final blow. A couple strolled past, hand in hand, laughter spilling from their lips like sunlight breaking through clouds. Their joy only deepened my sense of isolation. I wanted that lightness again, but it felt so far away now, lost amidst the tangled web I had woven around myself. I leaned against a railing overlooking the river, watching the water swirl beneath me as if it mirrored my tumultuous thoughts. Each ripple seemed to carry away pieces of my resolve, leaving behind only uncertainty and fear. "Clara?" A familiar voice pulled me from my reverie. I turned to see an old friend from college, Sarah, approaching with a warm smile that momentarily eased my turmoil. "What are you doing here?" "Just taking some time for myself," I said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. She studied me for a moment before her expression softened. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world." I chuckled lightly but felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes instead. "It's just life," I replied vaguely. "Life can be heavy." She glanced toward where Jake and Lucas had disappeared into the crowd. "Is everything okay with your family?" The question hung between us like an uninvited guest. My instinct was to brush it off, but something compelled me to share more than I intended. "Things have been complicated lately," I admitted carefully. Sarah nodded knowingly. We all had our struggles hidden beneath layers of everyday life. "Sometimes talking helps," she suggested gently. I hesitated but then found myself sharing snippets about feeling overlooked in my marriage and how an unexpected connection had emerged with someone close to Lucas, a connection that had spiraled beyond what I ever imagined possible. Her brow furrowed slightly as she listened attentively. "Clara, you know this could end badly." "I know," I whispered, feeling exposed under her gaze. "Have you thought about what happens if your husband finds out? Or Lucas?" The mention of Lucas sent another wave of nausea rolling through me. His innocence remained intact while mine crumbled around me like dry leaves in autumn wind. "I can't bear to think about it," I confessed quietly. "Then maybe it's time to make some choices." Her words lingered like smoke in the air, sharp and unsettling. Before I could respond, Jake reappeared beside Lucas, his expression taut with determination as he scanned the area until his gaze locked onto mine. The warmth that once enveloped me now felt suffocating under his scrutiny. He approached cautiously as if sensing my turmoil before speaking. "Clara," he began softly but paused when he caught sight of Sarah standing beside me. "Hey." "Just catching up with an old friend," I interjected quickly, needing distance from whatever confession loomed on his lips. Jake's eyes flickered between us before settling on mine again. There was an intensity there that made my breath catch in my throat, a mixture of hope and dread swirling together like storm clouds gathering overhead. "I need to talk to you," he insisted softly but firmly enough that it brooked no argument. I nodded mechanically while glancing back at Sarah, who offered an encouraging smile before stepping aside graciously, leaving us alone amidst throngs of people oblivious to our quiet turmoil. "What is it?" My voice came out steadier than I felt as we moved away from prying eyes toward a quieter part near some food carts lining the walkway. Jake took a deep breath as if steeling himself for something monumental. My heart raced alongside him, anticipating what might spill forth next. "I've been thinking about everything, about us." An electric tension crackled in the air between us. Every word felt weighted with unspoken implications while memories flooded back, the stolen moments filled with laughter and longing now tinged darker by reality's harsh light. "I want you to know how much you mean to me," he continued earnestly, searching for something within my eyes that perhaps even he couldn't articulate fully yet grasped intuitively nonetheless. The fragility binding us together amid chaos surrounding our lives outside this bubble we created together over time spent hiding beneath layers woven tightly around our hearts against judgment lurking nearby, always waiting for its moment. But just then, before clarity could settle upon either one of us, a sudden shout rang out nearby, drawing attention abruptly away from our intimate exchange. "Mom! Dad!" Lucas's voice cut through everything like glass shattering against concrete, sharp and urgent enough, jolting us both back into reality as panic surged anew within me instantly upon hearing him call out desperately. As footsteps approached rapidly behind him, I turned instinctively toward where they came from, only realizing too late what awaited just beyond this momentary sanctuary we'd carved ourselves into. And there stood Tom, my husband, with an expression etched deeply across his face revealing confusion mixed with something darker brewing beneath surface, ready erupting forth without warning. In that instant, the fragile threads binding all three lives collided violently against truth, threatening unravel everything irrevocably, leaving nothing untouched.